Alrighty, guys. Let's see here. Let's start on antisocial and prosocial behavior. Couple of things. I am going to go ahead and submit your second exam and your final exam. They're going to be in the announcement section, I believe, if I can attach a file in there. I'm not really sure. But I will upload both of those today as I am uploading this video. So go ahead and do those. You have until I believe the 4th or 5th of May to get the final exam to me. They're going to be stupid crazy easy because this semester has just been really off. So I think they're going to be like 10 multiple choice questions each. So just hammer those out, get them back to me. I'll get them graded and have everything turned in. Again, kind of be on the lookout for those. This chapter, a lot of it is in white. So, stuff like the Stanford Prison Experiment and the Kitty Genovese story. We're not going to go into all of that. You feel free to, research that on your own if you want. They're actually pretty interesting. There's a movie out about the Stanford Prison Experiment. It's actually pretty good. It tells kind of the story of how these things went down and, what the prisoners went through and what the guards went through. So, when we get to that section, I might talk a little bit more about it. I might not, but just know that we're gonna pretty much hit the high points on this video. I've been really busy with my new PI business, so that's kind of why I've not been probably as active in this class as I should have been, so my apologies for that. But so this will be the last chapter that we go over for the class, that extra week of spring break, and just doing all this online, it just the pacing of the class just didn't work out as well as it probably should have. And Navarro understands all of this, and probably a lot of your other classes are going to be in the same boat, where there might be more that the professor might want to go over, or if you had taken the class during a non-crazy semester, we would have hit sexuality and disorders and things like that. But just the way that this semester is kind of panned out, and I don't have contact with you guys, and I'm not really sure where you guys are, or if this is getting to you, or if you're understanding it, or I just have no contact or interaction with you guys, and that makes it really, really tough to teach this class, and to probably teach any class. So if your other professors haven't said anything, trust me, they all pretty much feel the same way. So again, just kind of thank you for your patience. We're all trying to adjust to this. I've never taught an online class before, so I'm not sure if you guys have been waiting patiently for the next set of materials, or if if we needed to go slower or faster. I just don't know, because again, I'm not there, and we're not able to answer questions or anything like that. So about a week or two, 1 to 2 weeks between chapters is usually pretty standard. Your exams, again, I'm gonna update both of those sometime this week. The final has to be uploaded by Tuesday or Wednesday, I believe, so you should have that by when we get to that point. Again, I'm gonna upload a couple of Word documents. They might be PDFs. I think they're actually PDFs, but I will pull out all the stuff that we weren't able to cover, and it's just gonna be banging out a 10 question multiple choice. Use your notes, don't use your notes. I really don't care at this point. I'm ready for this crazy semester to get over, as I'm sure you are as well. So if you want to use your notes, then that's fine. I don't foresee anyone making less than a 100 on this exam. Again, both exams will have the 5-point bonus essay question. So, do yourselves a favor and give that a shot, if you want to. But let's see what else. Your signature assignments. Several of you have contacted me about your signature assignments. They are optional. this semester. You haven't heard any updates or anything from me. I made an announcement in the class, last month or so, telling you that was no longer a required assignment. So if you've done it, go ahead and upload it, and I will just treat it as a fourth exam grade, and I will figure that into your exam average. The ones that have turned it in have done very, very well. So if you want to go ahead and pound out a short 5 to 7 page paper, if you haven't done it already, then go ahead and do that. And most people have gotten A's, so it can throw in there another A to be averaged with your grade average. So it'll give you 4 grades instead of 3. Also on your grade tab in Canvas, you might also notice a paper and presentation for 10 points. Usually what that is in a normal semester, I will offer that option for extra credit, where students can write a short 3 to 5 page paper or give a presentation. Obviously, with how things are now, you can't give a presentation, so you're not able to give a presentation. So if you want those extra points, go ahead and write 2 papers. I doubt most of you will probably not need it, to be honest. I'm assuming that most of the class is going to probably do very well in this class, just because of how the class has been structured due to everything that's going on. If you have any questions about this material or any of the others, or what's going on, or where we are, again, shoot me an email or post something to chat. I do check into the chat a couple times a week. So get in there, and several of you have messaged me about what's going on, and the signature assignment and things like that. Several of you have even turned in the signature assignment, and again, those of you that have turned it in have done pretty well. So it can't hurt you; it can only help you. There's really no need not to do it, unless you're just sitting pretty on an A and you feel confident that you're gonna be okay, and you just don't want to bother with it, which is fine. Again, signature assignment is no longer mandatory for this class, so this was probably a good semester to take this class, I would think. Anyway, okay, that all being done, again, if you have any questions or anything that I haven't covered in this little intro, then please feel free to shoot me an email and let me know, and I will do my best to accommodate you. All right, let's get started. All right, antisocial, prosocial behavior, timeline of notable violent acts. You guys can go through all this on your own. Defining aggression and antisocial behavior. All right, aggression is defined as any behavior intended to harm another person who is motivated to avoid that harm. This definition includes 3 important features. First, aggression is a behavior, not an emotion such as anger. Aggression is also not a thought, such as rehearsing a murder. So in order for something to be aggressive, it is actually a behavior that you perform. It's not, getting cut off on the freeway and wishing that person would die horribly, whatever. That's not technically aggression. Aggression must be a behavior that is performed. Second, aggression is intentional, not accidental, and the intent behind it must be to harm. So that behavior, you have to have the intention to harm behind it. So, things like hunting accidents or, a car crash or something like that, that's not intentional unless you meant to actually hurt the person in the process. Now, this can get into some gray areas like, drunk driving. Is drunk driving an aggressive act? Well, it kind of depends on how you look at it. The person, may not have meant to hurt or kill the person when they got into the car, but knowing how they were and that they are impaired, their behavior directly resulted in that person's death. So even if the accident was an accident, the person may not have had what's called malice aforethought, meaning that they didn't have the predetermined or predefined intent to harm. Legally, it's still considered an aggressive act. Psychologically, I would still even consider it to be an aggressive act because driving while impaired or things like that, even though the intent behind it was not really to harm, it could still be under kind of that general umbrella, if you will. And third, the definition stipulates that the victim must want to avoid the harm. victim can't like what you're doing to them. This is not some kind of sadomasochistic behavior where BDSM or anything like that, where the victim actually enjoys the harm. In order for a behavior to be defined as aggressive in terms of this content, the victim cannot like what you are doing, and they wish to escape whatever it is that you are doing to them. So if those three factors are present, then that is an aggressive act. That is a behavior that runs counter to the norms and rules of society. And in that context, that is what antisocial behavior is. Antisocial behavior has kind of gotten a little bit twisted and warped in the common parlance of today, where antisocial could mean someone who just wants to avoid social interactions or whatever. That's not what we're talking about. Antisocial behavior, psychologically speaking, is behavior that runs counter to the best interests of society as a whole. So aggression and violence and just being an all-around jerk, that could also be considered, by the strictest definition of the word, antisocial or even aggressive, depending on how pervasive and how involved or how intrusive that behavior is in the other person's existence or life. There are three different types of aggression. The first is hostile, the second is instrumental, and the third is just good old plain violence. Hostile aggression is defined as hot, impulsive, angry behavior that is motivated by a desire to harm someone. So hostile aggression is not really planned out. It's considered kind of that very hot or very impulsive. You walk in on your wife, sleeping with someone else, and you pull out your gun and you kill them both immediately on the spot. There's no planning. There's no real end goal. You just walk in and you see red. That would be considered hostile aggression. Aggression in the moment. Again, there's no real means to an end. There's no real benefit to be gained from it. This is not, murder for hire or any kind of terrorism or anything like that, where the end goal is some kind of social or economic advantage. That's going to be more instrumental aggression, which we'll get into here in just a second. Instrumental aggression is defined as cold, premeditated, calculated harmful behavior that is a means to some practical or material end. Let me move this here. Hang on just a second. Okay, right there should be good. So this is where we get into things like, killing your wife for the insurance money, or, planning a terroristic or a bomb attack to, enact some form of social change. The Unabomber was an instrumentally aggressive perpetrator, if you will. It requires a great deal of planning, and it's a much more distant, and the person who commits the crime really has no personal motive behind it. It's not, it's usually a very detached, very disjointed, very socially distant behavior that is a means to some form of end. If you're an assassin or something like that, where you're doing it for money, or if you're plotting the next big terrorist attack or whatever, where you're trying to enact some form of social change, then that behavior is targeted, or that behavior is driven by some form of desire to gain something, or desire to initiate some form of change. So you are looking to get something out of the aggressive act itself. And third, we have violence. Violence is defined as aggression that has as its goal extreme physical harm, such as injury or death. Violence is just aggression for the sake of being aggressive. There is no, it's kind of the purest, rawest form of aggressive behavior, if you will. There's no political or economic means to an end. You're not getting paid for it. You're not, again, trying to enact some form of social change or, industrial change. and you have really no personal connection to the victims or the person that you are behaving aggressively towards. It's just violence just for the sake of being violent. Something I guess you could get some form of innate pleasure from the act itself, and that would be considered a kind of almost a form of warped instrumental aggression, if you will. Again, there's no really hard line defined distance between these three things. They can cross over. But violence in and of itself is just violence for the sake of being violent. Some aggressive tendencies or impulses are natural. Again, we're humans. It's human nature to, we have that animalistic urge. Going back to Freud and all of his stuff. We have these demons inside of us that are just dying and begging to come out. So yeah, the human nature, it is in our nature to be aggressive, to be hostile towards each other. But again, as humans, we have the ability to control our behavior. So thinking being so angry that you wish you could just hit this person, or you wish you could cut this person off and then return eye for an eye. That's all very normal and natural. But again, it's what you do with that impulse. It's how you behave that really kind of makes the transition from normal to abnormal, or from okay to not okay. There's actually a concept, it's called the explanatory gap. Not the explanatory gap, I'm sorry. What is it called? It doesn't matter. I can't think of it right now. It'll come to me here in just a second. But the ability to not act on every single impulse, the ability to feel a desire and kind of take a step back and not that gap between the thought and having to act on that thought. The longer that gap is, the more you can kind of sit with your emotions, and the more you can kind of not respond to every single impulse, not say every single thing that comes into your mind, not behave and follow every single desire that you have. That is a big sign of social maturity, and we tend to value people like that who are able to not behave and not respond to every single thought and every single emotion and every single desire that they have. However, in general, culture seeks to restrain aggression, such as by laws and moral or religious rules. Yeah, that's true. Society, every known society has laws against aggression. Sometimes it's praised, sometimes it's dealt with harshly. Different cultures, different environments, places like the military, they tend to value more aggressive types of people, and people who harbor, a little more inherent aggressive tendencies tend to do better. But in general society, we tend to not like that, and there are consequences for behaving in an aggressive manner. All known human societies have rules against aggression, though they may note that some aggression is acceptable, such as in self-defense. But again, you have to match like with like. If someone calls you a dweeb or whatever, you can't pull out your gun and shoot them 47 times. It just you have to match equal justice with equal justice. And so again, all those societies, we do say that you have the right to defend yourself and with deadly force if necessary. There have to be certain God, I'm off my game today. There are certain situations where that is acceptable, and certain situations where you will spend the rest of your life in jail. So again, even though we have that allowance in our society that yes, you can exert violence or harm on another person in self-defense or defense of another, there are certain certain qualifications that must be met for that to be okay. All right, instinct theories. Instinct theories basically are internal causes of aggression. So we're going to talk about different causes of different sources of aggression, whether it comes from the outside, the devil made me do it, or, I was poor and whatever, or whether it's just kind of human nature and human instinct to be aggressive like we are. We are simply advanced animals, and we all have this animalistic urge within us to behave horribly to each other. So we're going to talk about both of those different diverging kind of theoretical approaches now. Hold on just a second. Okay, so Freud. Back to Freud. Freud argued that human motivational forces such as sex and aggression are based on instincts. We as humans all possess them. It's part of human nature to behave aggressively. It's part of human nature to want to secretly harm everything. We have this, this side of us, this dark human innate tendency, this innate nature that we have to keep squashed down because we live in society. And, in order to be a good boy or girl, we can't really act on our true nature. But given the opportunity, remove the social consequences and remove the personal consequences, each of us would be just completely horrible to each other. Things like, the book The Lord of the Flies, if you've never read that, it's a very, very good book. It talks about, a group of 12-year-old boys who basically get shipwrecked on an island, and they kind of form two different societies. One of them is good and one of them is bad. There's just been all kinds of fictional and non-fictional movies and books and things like that explore this topic. It's pretty well known that, given the opportunity and the motive and the means, human beings have the capability to do very, very bad things to each other. But again, the social and personal costs of behaving in that way are usually much higher than most of us are willing to accept. And so we kind of keep those tendencies in check. And even though they might be, our true behavior and how we really are, according to Freud, most of us, the costs associated with the benefit of, being our true selves and who we really